Hey, it's your financial maven, Samantha Besnoff, CPA, and after almost 25 years in the accounting world, I've decided to share my insights and passion about money. Knowing your money and hopefully feeling less stress about your money is what I call being financially empowered. Welcome to the Your Financial Maven podcast. Welcome to the latest episode of Your Financial Maven. I'm excited to be with you today and share my interview with a friend and colleague, Marc Steren. But before I get to that interview, I wanted to share something real quick. So when I was in high school, I was part of the Pennsylvania Future Business Leaders of America, PAFBLA. And I had an opportunity at the beginning of April through the Pennsylvania Institute of CPAs to be one of the CPA guest speakers to a group of high school students to talk to them about the accounting field, what it means to be a CPA. And I have to tell you, they had their state competition in Hershey. It's been about 30 years since I was at an FBLA state competition when I competed with my friends, and it was such a fun time. So it was really exciting to walk in and see all these students. I think there was about 4,000 to 5,000 middle school and high school students learning about business, competing in business, all kinds of different things that FBLA does. It was very exciting. Myself and two of my fellow CPAs talked to about 100 high school students about being a CPA, about being in the accounting field, and what it means to take the traditional route once you graduate from college to become a CPA versus maybe doing some of the traditional public accounting work and then heading out on your own and doing different things, talking about what it means to be entrepreneurs and business leaders. And I just have to say that our future is bright. It was really awesome to see all of these students in professional business gear talking to mentors and colleges and listening to guest speakers at the FBLA Pennsylvania State Competition. So I just wanted to share how excited I am. And this leads into my conversation with Marc, talking about our young adults and our students and having opportunities when it comes to becoming entrepreneurs. Welcome to the latest episode of Your Financial Maven. I am so excited today. I have someone on with me today that I know, at least 2 decades. Our kids are in their 20s now. We met when our boys were young. I'm so excited to have Marc Steren with me today. You are a founder of multiple companies. You have received various investments from various celebrity investors, Michael Jordan, Steven Spielberg, Wayne Gretzky, Nokia Ventures. You are the co-founder and co-CEO of University Startups, which is an edtech SaaS platform funded by TEDco. You've been featured in Huffington Post, Washington Post, The Washingtonian Magazine. You've been recognized as Entrepreneur Expert by Georgetown University, named to the Young CEOs of Washington, D.C. and Mindshare, which I think is an invite-only group for entrepreneurs. You are the founding director of entrepreneurship at the University of Shady Grove, a professor in the Academy of Innovation and Entrepreneurship at the University of Maryland College Park. You are co-director of the Georgetown University Summer Launch Incubator, entrepreneur in residence, and an adjunct professor. Your students have gone on to ABC's Shark Tank, Techstars of London, Chobani Incubator, Leonesis Prize winners, Halcyon Social Incubator, and Georgetown's Entrepreneur of the Year. You are the winner of NFIB's National Educator of the Year, the winner of David S. Stone for Teaching Award. You've got 3 books, The Student's Guide to Entrepreneurship, Stories from Connie, and School Culture. And when you sold your latest company in 2012, you dedicated your time to teaching entrepreneurship. And that is why I have Marc on here today to talk about entrepreneurship. Amazing, Marc. Just what I have seen in the last 20 years that I've known you, just everything that you have done. So welcome to the podcast. So excited to have you here.
Thanks so much. I'm definitely looking forward to this conversation. I've actually had to stop all my educational endeavors because of University Startup. You know, kind of like Tiger Woods just plays golf. If you want to be awesome at golf, you have to focus in on that. So unfortunately, I had to stop at Georgetown and College Park, which I love doing, but I'm passionate about University Startups.
What was it as you were growing up that kind of led you into being an entrepreneur? Being entrepreneurs is not always an easy thing. So you have to have passion for it. So I'd love to know how you kind of wanted to become an entrepreneur.
Yes, gosh, that's such a great question.
Yeah.
One that actually I haven't been asked before. I think a lot of it comes from the environment you're in. And I was very fortunate. My parents are immigrants, immigrated from Argentina, and just that spirit of doing things and, starting jobs as a high school student and just taking things on as seeing problems as opportunities to be solved as opposed to just problems. So I think very fortunate to just grow up in that environment.
Yeah. And being an entrepreneur, you still have to love to go to work every day to do that. It's not just like you can flip a switch and you're an entrepreneur, to a degree.
Yes. Yes. So it's funny because when you go to work and you get a job and, you're doing something, you're enjoying it, many people don't see what happens behind the scenes, all the things you have to do to build the infrastructure of a company, all the stresses that go with it,
Right.
all the joys that go with it. So it's really interesting. It's funny because I was dating my current wife and I was a law clerk, a graduate from
Okay.
law school.
That's right.
And I
You did
think
go to law school.
yeah. And I think she thought she was going to marry this well-established attorney and not worry about it. It's, been venture after venture. And it's a lifestyle, crazy one, but I really love entrepreneurship.
Yeah, you do. And like I said, I've known you for many years and I know you were in the restaurant business for a while. And then you guys moved down to Maryland and teaching and then creating your books and this university startup. I think is amazing just to be able to have that passion. And like you said, it isn't for everybody. And you have to know that there are going to be down times and there are going to be not down times and how you work around that. So I want to actually go into, if you could explain your university startup a bit, what this organization, foundation, company does. I think it's for college age students, lower income families. If you could explain a little bit more and kind of how you decided the passion for this.
Yeah, so it was COVID and I was teaching at Georgetown University and a colleague of mine who was Maryland Social Impact Entrepreneur of the Year said, hey, why don't we teach high school students how to launch a venture, but for social good? And it was during COVID. We thought we'd get 20 kids. We got 67 kids from Florida to California signed up taking this
Wow.
entrepreneurship.
Amazing. Yeah.
And it was really cool. And then about 6 months later, I got emails from students saying, hey, professor, I want to let you know, I took that experience, wrote about it, and now I'm at this wonderful college, like Dartmouth, all these great schools. And, I told my wife, don't stress it. I'm not doing another startups. It's
Right.
just really cool to see the impact. But then we got a call from a foundation in 2021 saying, that's really cool what you're doing. We heard what you're doing. We worked with you in the past. But what about the kids we work with, the under-resourced student? And oh my gosh, it was like an awakening. We are just not doing enough to democratize this opportunity for kids to either A, go to higher education, community college, or B, get a great paying job. So that's what our company does. We work with K-12, community college, higher ed, but really focus on under-resourced students, giving them the tools through the entrepreneurial mindset to be whatever they want to be, whether that's going to college, becoming an engineer, becoming a registered nurse. What does that personalized pathway look like? And how can we start working with kids super young to get them excited about it?
And I think that's a good thing to point out. I think it's important to start kids when they're young, getting them to think about these things. And, just like with financial literacy, understanding how does a bank work? How does money work? Understanding that entrepreneurship side also helps them. Whether they become entrepreneurs themselves or not, they have that basis. As we talked before we started recording, I think all students in high school, college should take some kind of business class, something to get them to understand that world.
And I think financial literacy touches everything you do, whether you're an entrepreneur, solopreneur, work in a business, have a family household. You have to understand your budgets. You have to understand what's driving your ability to pay for things. It's just so important. And the younger we can instill those values into kids, the better they'll be as they grow older and take on more responsibility. So it's super important.
Definitely. So how many students do you feel you've helped in the last 3 years with this program?
So this fall, we'll do about 15,000 kids this fall.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it actually may even grow more, probably closer to 40,000.
Wow.
But it's really cool because we partner with schools and school districts. And what we're finding is that teachers are amazing, counselors are amazing, but they're overwhelmed. So if you're in a school and you're a career counselor or college counselor, you may have 400 kids that you're responsible for. So how do you really empower those kids to really get them where they go. And so we provide those tools to really empower the teachers and counselors to work with the kids.
That's awesome. And is it only in the metro, like DC, Maryland, Virginia area, or have you expanded beyond that?
Yeah, so we're in 7 states now, from New York City to Dallas. We do both rural, both metro, so it's really cool. And what's really cool, Samantha, is that different regions of the country have different issues that are important to them.
Very true. Yeah, very true.
But they all have that commonality is they want to help kids get to either higher education or a great career. So how do you customize and localize, what's really special about their community and still satisfy that outcome that, hey, we got to help the kids. So it's pretty fun.
I hadn't even thought of that like, when you generalize things, you don't realize people living in different areas of the country are growing up in a different way or learning things differently or how they go about doing things to help their students. So that's actually very interesting. You're able to make it personalized or more customized for that area, but also do the general entrepreneurial things that go with it too.
Yeah. And what's really cool about kids is sometimes you'll go in the area, and if you're anything like me as a kid, I didn't think about my future that much.
Right.
Right. But if you can give them that snippet view of what they can be in the future, they become more optimistic, more hopeful for their future. It's really cool. And they can say, I can do whatever is possible. And they're not thinking about that.
Yeah, you're right. I don't think kids do think about that, but it's important because when you get to the point where you're going through high school, deciding, am I going to go to college? Am I going to go out in the workforce? Am I going to go into the military, go into a trade school? Like not realizing there's more to than just going into that. There's all this other stuff around it they need to be aware of and have the strength to do that. So I have to say, you had just recently had an article in the Bethesda magazine talking about entrepreneurship. And you had a quote, which I'm going to share here, which I loved. And you said, entrepreneurship teaches you empathy, it teaches you to listen, and it teaches you to get feedback. And as we're talking about university startups, it sounds like you're really working with these kids regarding that. It's not just about building a product and selling it and making money off of it. There's more to entrepreneurship than that. So I think that's cool.
Yeah. What's really cool about entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship in general, it really does teach you to listen, because it's not about your solution. It's about the customer's problem. So if you can really understand what the pain points are and what the beneficiary customer is really going through, you can build something awesome that really works for them. And that ability to listen and that ability to get that feedback and build something great for them is awesome. As entrepreneurs, we used to believe that you build a solution, then try to sell it. We no longer think that. We interview consumers, run multiple experiments, prototype, get feedback, and build something that fits them to a T, like a glove. And so that skill is awesome.
It is awesome. I mean, I have to say, I was in FBLA, Future Business Leaders of America, when I was in high school. And me and 2 other classmates went off on to the state of Pennsylvania's state competition for entrepreneurship. That was our module.
That's awesome.
Right? And it was a little different. Like you said, there were some focuses a little different than how you're focusing now, but it was really cool. We actually won. We became the state champs in 1991 for this module we did on entrepreneurship.
Look at you. That's
yeah,
awesome.
I mean, I have to be honest with you. I cannot remember the problem itself, but I know that we solved it based off of these things. And it wasn't just about selling our product, but how do we reach the customer? And of course, when we were growing up, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have social media. So amazingly how that changes being an entrepreneur for good and for bad.
It has, but let me tell you, there's no better time to be an entrepreneur than today, because tools, the ability to make things, the cost of it's significantly less. My first product, it took like $1 million just to build out the prototype, and nothing like that. The problem is, and the opportunity is that many kids don't know, what they don't know. They're not provided great mentorship as they grow up. Like, it sounds like you've had great mentorship, throughout your life, and that's important.
Yeah.
But B, they don't know that there are opportunities out there. So if you're going through there and you think, hey, there's nothing out there for me, it makes it hard. So entrepreneurs are super hopeful because you're crazy. You're trying to change.
Very true. We are crazy.
Yeah, and compete against multi-billion-dollar companies.
Yeah.
You got to have a little like, hey, I can have an impact. But if you can think like that and be hopeful, it's great. It's really just a great way to think and to live.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've been on my own now 10 years on my own doing tax and accounting work. And I'm looking into shifting my business at this point a little bit more towards small business owners. And of course, the podcast and financial literacy. And you're right. I think on some level, there's, I would say, like you say, a level of craziness. It's you just have to realize that you own this and there's nobody like above to take that heat or to take that win. It's you. And you have to be willing to understand that. And it's crazy. And customer service is huge. When I was executive director of the JCC in Lancaster, I really learned about customer service because you're dealing with people. We had preschool, we had activities, and you're dealing with people who are focused on their families and want to make sure they're safe. And it really taught me that it is important to listen. And the customer is not always right, I have to say, but you still have to approach it as they're still the customer. And how can you work through that? And teaching these kids, probably they don't realize that if their customer is wrong, you can't be nasty to them or just cut them off. You've got to find a way to bridge that gap.
Yeah. First of all, what great experience you've had.
Thank you.
But I think
Thank you.
I think what's interesting in what you're telling us, and if I'm listening right, like you learn conflict resolution and conflict management. You learn to work within teams. You are accountable. So those skills are amazing and served you in your jobs. So imagine if we can teach that earlier in high school, where we measure and quantify, these are the skills you're learning. And we know from people like you that it translates to becoming a better boss or a greater employee or eventual entrepreneur. So the entrepreneurial mindset and the entrepreneurial skills aren't just for entrepreneurs, they're for everybody.
Yeah,
right. Conflict
I agree.
Resolution for kids. I mean, like it's just.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's important.
Huge. And you're right. For those that go off to college, having that conflict resolution knowledge or having the ability to know to be accountable and that they have to advocate for themselves, whether talking to professors or if they're out in the workforce, by learning that at a younger age, I think they'll fare better and they'll not be so afraid to ask those questions and kind of say, hey, I don't necessarily agree with this. What is it that I'm missing? Or have those conversations. So important. Is there any, thank you. So is there anything else, I guess, with entrepreneurs in general or just about the university startup you'd love to share? Any exciting things you're working on?
Yeah, so we're working on some really cool things.
Nice.
I can't share yet, but what's really cool is, and I feel, is that for once, a lot of students feel like they're special and have a great future. And so imagine you coming to work every day knowing that what you do matters and has an impact. Yeah. And what I tell my kids and everything, it's not just us, but everyone and everything can go to work believing that they're having some sort of impact. So if you're a dishwasher, you know that you're serving customers out in the restaurant and what you do matters. And so I think taking pride in your work is super important, and you have impact in whatever you do, it matters.
It does, yeah.
That's what we're doing. But yeah, we're really excited. We're expanding both globally and into multiple states that we should be able to announce.
I'm so excited for that. I can't wait to see, I've known you for years, but even following all the stuff you're doing. And I think that's so awesome. Shift a little gear, like I said, we have college-age kids. Some of ours are getting ready to go out into the world. Is there any other insight or tips you might have as they enter the real world from college that they might need to be aware of from an entrepreneurial, financial area, or just, any kind of tips or insights for that age group?
So you are the clear financial expert, so I don't want to dive too deep into that. But what I think matters is networking. And I think people don't realize, through LinkedIn, through meetings, through conferences, through meetups, that every opportunity may lead to your next employment opportunity, may lead to your next job, partnership, invention together. And I think kids don't take enough advantage of that. And what I'm finding is, as I go through resumes and we look to hire people in different departments, we tend to favor kids that have club experience or, those kind of things where they've gone out and met others, been in sports, just things where they've had opportunity to network. And actually, we have a course called Networking. We believe it's that important. Yeah, we have networking and future of work as part of our core offering, because networking is such an important element of what you do.
It is.
In terms of financial literacy, I think it's just so important. I think every student should have some sort of financial acumen by the time they graduate, whether that's high school or college.
Yes. When we were growing up and looking for jobs, it was so different for us. A lot of it was more hands-on, in-person, or on the phone talking. Now it's you go in through Indeed or you go in through LinkedIn and you submit it online, and You still have to have that network or know how to reach out. And my son will tell me, he's like, he applies on LinkedIn and I'm like, did you follow through? He goes, I don't know who to follow up with in some cases because there isn't that. But in other cases, there are, and he has some people that he has network connections with that he can then, hey, any advice on who else I could talk to kind of a thing. But for a lot of kids, they don't realize the digital world is such a different way to do this than when we were looking for jobs originally.
And then when they get that job, many of them will stay at home and take, 4 or 5 days, just virtual.
Right.
If there's any possible way to go into the office, and I understand that may not be the culture for a lot of young employees, but the ability to go and just learn from others who have been in the business and get mentorship
Definitely.
and network.
Yeah.
We have a proximity bias. Those we're closer around to, we like more.
That's very true.
Just by,
Very
just
true.
by taking yourself out of the office, you've now put yourself a leg behind. You're not learning from them and you're not close to them. So I would just suggest to try to go to the office as much as you can.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. When Tyler had his first internship 2 summers ago, he was home. And here's a kid who outdoors, swam in the summer, swam all year round, but like outdoors in the summertime. And now he's in his room doing this internship. And he went into the office a couple times, but it wasn't the same. So this past summer, I said, he had the same internship. I said, you need to be in the office.
Love
and
that.
he went in 3 days a week to have that
Perfect.
interaction.
Yeah.
And so it was more hybrid. And it's interesting because my husband, Larry's been home for 4 years now. Now he goes in, he has to go in occasionally, but he even says it's hard because he doesn't always want to go in. Like he's gotten used to being at home, but he also sees that value in going in and networking with his coworkers that he's been working with for 20 some 30 years. But you have to find a way. I mean, I work for myself. I don't have people to network in my office. And that's the other thing with entrepreneurs. You have to then, if you work for yourself, get involved with your local chambers and other business networks and places, because if you don't, you're just going to sit in your own office or home and not have that interaction and grow your business potentially. Yeah.
That's smart. That's smart. So we really believe in the theory of velocity, and speed of learning is our advantage for a startup. So if we compete against a big company, it may take 6 months to have some sort of pivot. With us, we have a discussion over the weekend. Monday, we finalize it, and Tuesday, we're off and running with that directional change.
Right.
But that velocity occurs because we're together in an office and can brainstorm together, as opposed to a Zoom call. Quite candidly, someone like me gets very fatigued being on Zoom call after Zoom call, but the energy that I receive from other people in the office and working with them and their ideas, it's just that velocity just occurs with us together. And so I can't imagine running a startup that's completely virtual, and a massive company must be hard. Must be really hard.
I agree. And that's why I make it more of an effort for me to get out and network, because I might not have that office mate to bounce ideas off of. But if I talk to other business owners, I talk to other accountants, I talk to other CPAs, I can go, oh, I hadn't thought of that, And I think it goes well for school too, making those connections, because you're coming from all different places. Even if you're going out in the workforce and you have to learn, what you learned growing up, it's not that it's bad. It's just not what everybody has learned or how they learned it. And there could be something else different about it.
Yeah, that's such a good point. That's awesome.
So I have a question I ask all my guests, and you don't have to be in the financial world to answer it, but I want to know your insight on what is money?
God, that's such a great question.
Thank you.
Money for us is a tool for growth. It's the ability to grow the company. It's the fuel to the fire. So without money, we can't grow. And money for us is also a KPI. It's something we measure the success, how much money's coming in and how much money's coming out, the viability of our business.
Which is important, I think, for entrepreneurs in the business world. They need to understand and gauge their money in the business to see where the growth is or where they are declining and have to fix.
Yeah. So I love that. I mean, that's such a great question.
Thank you.
I haven't thought about that. But for us, money's about growth, both, again, revenue and investment wise. That's how we look at it.
And with the kids you're working with, do you ever talk to them about that? Like that piece of it, about what money is as a growth or a tool? Like, do they touch on that at all? Or do they ever ask you? That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And I'm sure you get all kinds of different answers or thought processes because Some people think of money as just, ooh, I got money in my pocket, I can go spend it, right?
Yeah, so we had the family discussion and they're really good. My son was out for dinner with his friends and the dad was buying them dinner and the kids were going around and one kid was opening a steak and all these things. And he called my wife and said, hey, I got the chicken. I saw the menu, saw everything was really expensive. I didn't think it was appropriate for me to spend someone else's money. And it was really cool. And another son, we were out with my mom and he called ahead and was running behind and said, hey, can you order X, but only if it costs below a certain
they're aware
amount.
of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought they're really cognizant of the value of money. And really, that's more my wife than me. She's the former accountant.
She's awesome.
And she's,
I was going to say,
really,
she's the accounting brain as well. So.
Yeah, she's very frugal. But, I will say for kids in these areas that we work in, the lack of money and the lack of resources is a significant disadvantage to what my kids have. And so, again, how do we democratize that? In this world, we feel that we're in the right place at the right time to help these kids achieve some sort of balance where they can have financial freedom. And for them, that varies for every child and every family, but at least give them an opportunity to get there. That's what we're hoping to do.
I was going to say, you're providing them an insight into that world and an opportunity, and I think it's awesome. Is there anything else you want to share or talk about when it comes to being an entrepreneur? Anything important that entrepreneurs should know about?
First of all, really evaluate if it's something you want to do. But I love entrepreneurship because you're the ultimate giver. It's really not about you. People see these personas and see Steve Jobs or Mark Zuckerberg or Sheryl Sandberg. The reality is it's all about serving other people. And if you can keep that in mind, I think you have an opportunity to be a great entrepreneur.
That's awesome. Thank you, Mark. This has been so much fun.
So much fun. Thanks for doing this, Samantha. I appreciate it.
Hey, it's Your Financial Maven, and I want to hear from you. Feel free to leave me your insights and money stories or questions that you may have about money. You can visit www.yourfinancialmavenpodcast.com and click on the I Want to Hear From You tab. I can't wait to hear what you have to say about money. The purpose of this podcast is to provide general information on the subjects discussed. It is for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes only. You should consult your CPA, accountant, or tax professional for all of your specific financial needs or situations. Your Financial Maven is hosted and produced by Samantha M. Besnoff, CPA, and Your Financial Maven, LLC. Editing is done by Kris Zarnoch of KMZen Creative. Music is written, composed, and performed by Daniel Shore.